My name is Diva Rahman and I'm a deep sea biologist.
My name is Sonika Manandar.
My name is Obayomi Anthony.
My name is Tamara Merino and I'm a documentary photographer and visual storyteller.
We build rainwater harvesting systems in remote communities that have poor access to water.
Conserve Congo is an organization that fights the scourge of wildlife trafficking.
Like a Fitbit which monitors your health, we help monitor the financial health of the grassroots entrepreneur.
The aim of the Algorithmic Justice League is to build an ecosystem with more accountable and equitable AI.
Educators are the direct connection that students have to develop their passions and become future leaders.
I generally hope that my work informs the way that we treat one another.
I aim to create stories that speak to the hearts and minds of viewers, inviting them to ask questions, to feel emotions, and to reflect.
When I look around my community, I see so much untapped potential.
I see curiosity.
I see opportunity to find solutions to some of the greatest challenges to face humanity in the future.
It is my goal to leave the world a better place than I found it.
It's up to us to try and make a difference, and I think that we can totally do it as long as we just commit to doing it and throw our energy behind it.
Hi everyone, I'm Greg Magruder, curator for global events, coming to you from National Geographic headquarters in downtown Washington, D.C. Our campus has been closed since March as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, but I'm thrilled to join you tonight to kick off our fall virtual programs. This pandemic has grounded many of us, and we've all become way too familiar with every detail of our homes. National Geographic's explorers have been grounded as well, but they've continued to push boundaries. Our educators are adapting and innovating to reach students outside of the classroom. Storytellers continue to document and share stories of their communities, reflecting the concepts of identity, migration, and social justice. Scientists have refocused their research on their own backyards, but despite their circumstances, our explorers have remained committed to illuminating and protecting the wonder of our world. You'll have a chance to hear directly from them about their groundbreaking work. We're looking forward to the day we can all gather again, but until that time, our virtual events will bring you stories from around the world directly to the comfort of your home. Thank you all for sharing your time with us, and thanks to our donors and supporters who've made it possible for the National Geographic to invest in and elevate the work of our explorers. If you're interested in joining us or in learning more, please visit ngs.org or follow us at Inside Nat Geo. Now it gives me great pleasure to welcome my colleague, Chief Explorer Engagement Officer Alex Moen, to introduce our impressive class of emerging explorers for this year. Take it away, Alex.
Thank you, Greg, for that kind introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm Alex Moen, Chief Explorer Engagement Officer at the National Geographic Society, and it's my privilege to welcome you to this special event celebrating National Geographic's new class of emerging explorers. Since 2004, we've identified and recognized visionary trailblazers from around the globe whose innovative ideas and accomplishments are making a significant difference in the world, and invited them to join our community as National Geographic Emerging Explorers. This image shows some of the more than 160 emerging explorers, breakthrough scientists, conservationists, educators, and storytellers. And I know many of them are watching tonight, cheering on the new class. This wonderful, diverse mosaic of talent is a reflection and personification of National Geographic's mission to use the power of their disciplines to illuminate and protect the wonder of our world. Many of these individuals have remained engaged with National Geographic over the years, applying for grants, leading programs, supporting our education efforts, and working with National Geographic Media. It's a testament to this program and to these individuals, how we continue to work together with a shared vision for a better world. Tonight, I'm fortunate to celebrate and welcome the 2020 class of Emerging Explorers with a member of the 2011 class, Dr. Paula Kahumbu, who is joining us from her native Kenya. Paula is a renowned conservationist and the CEO of Wildlife Direct, a conservation NGO based in Kenya that empowers people to coexist with wildlife. Paula, I'm so excited to have you join on this special occasion as an ambassador, if you will, of the Emerging Explorer community. And I think the audience would love to hear from you about how this award and how your relationship with National Geographic actually has influenced your work over the years. Can you share a little bit about your journey?
Thank you so much, Alex. It is such an honor, and I'm so humbled to be here for this amazing event. I became an emerging explorer in 2011, and I gave a talk at that time about the city of Nairobi and this phenomenal national park that resides within the city boundaries. We were trying to save the lions. And today, nearly 10 years later, the government is actually implementing many of the ideas that we had proposed way back then. But it hasn't been an easy journey. And my siblings in the Emerging Explorers family have been such a phenomenal source of experience, knowledge, ideas. I moved away from just doing science to doing much more storytelling, thanks to all the help from the Nat Geo community, the boot camps that I went on, and listening to the stories of all the other people. I personally think that Africa has so much at risk and so much to give the world. And I got this from my presentations at Nat Geo. People all over the world love African animals. And we need, as Africans, to secure these animals into the future. So I now produce my own TV series. It's called Wildlife Warriors. And we are shining a light on African conservation heroes across the continent. We're starting right here in Kenya, and I've just come back from the field, from a recce, working with dogs that are helping to save cheetahs, which was just amazing. Conservationists who are trying to bring back the northern white rhinos from the brink of extinction, and communities near the Masai Mara trying to save lions, cheetahs, and other big cats. It is so exciting. This is such an important time for all of us. And the family in National Geographic, the Emerging Explorers, and all the staff, including yourself, have played such a vital role in giving me the energy, the excitement, the tools, and the visibility to tell very important stories. So I've got to thank you all, and I'm so excited to be here.
Well, thank you, Paula, and thank you for the great work that you do every day. What impresses me in particular is how you've so powerfully combined conservation science with the storytelling, especially at that local level. In fact, I believe that the ability to communicate effectively and inspire others is that key trait that all National Geographic explorers have. All right, so on with the program. This year we have 8 new emerging explorers to introduce to you. Each of them will share a little bit about themselves, as well as give an overview of their work. And I know that you will all come away amazed at what these change makers are doing. It's now my pleasure to introduce you to our first speaker, Enrique Lomnitz, who's changing lives for the better in Mexico.
Hello, my name is Enrique Lomnitz, and before I begin, I just want to say how grateful and happy I am to be part of the National Geographic 2020 Emerging Explorers generation. Very exciting. I wish I was in Washington, D.C. right now. I'm in this yurt a couple hours south of Mexico City instead, but I'm an industrial designer. And the work that I do springs from the fact that I come from a city that's running out of water. I was born in Mexico City to a family of migrants and refugees, and always wanted to do something to try and give something back to this place that took my family in. So when I was at university, I met this friend and later my co-founder, Renata Fenton, and we started spending a lot of time in these low-income neighborhoods, these hill communities around Mexico City, interviewing and talking to people about problems and issues that they faced in their day-to-day lives that as designers, maybe we would be able to help something with. And the issue that started coming up over and over again was water access. And, this was a strange thing to us because Mexico City was founded on an island in the middle of a lake, which was then drained. And we get 50% higher rainfall than London. And every year, huge parts of the city flood. So it's paradoxical, but as we started looking at it, Mexico City is actually one of the most unsustainable and water-stressed cities in the world. We're on the Nature Conservancy's list of 10 cities most likely to run out of water in the world. And looking at this situation, at this paradox, the city that floods and that's running out of water at the same time, it seemed almost obvious idea to us that, maybe we could start harvesting rainwater in these communities and improve people's situation. And the idea started to evolve into this kind of vision of a city where every time it rains, instead of flooding, 2 or 3 million cisterns start filling up. And we thought that this might be a way to improve people's water access and also start helping steer the city in this more sustainable and resilient direction. And our problem was that we had no idea how to bring that about. So we decided to put up one rainwater harvesting system and at least see if it worked. So we went with this woman, Clara Gaitan, one of the people we had been interviewing, and we installed a rainwater harvesting system in her house, and it was amazing. They went 8 months that first year, 8 months entirely autonomous, just on self-supplied harvested rainwater. They didn't get any water from outside. And it was a pivotal moment in my life because seeing this tank overflowing with water, I think made us take the decision to found what became Isla Urbana and go all in to really try to make Mexico City into the city where, everybody harvests rainwater. So since we still didn't know exactly how to go about it, we rented a room across the street from Clara's house and moved into the neighborhood and started installing rainwater harvesting systems with our neighbors. And, trying to figure out how to do this because we wanted to do it right. So how do you design rainwater harvesting systems for this context? What works best? And how do you go into a neighborhood and talk to people and convince them and eventually teach everybody to start harvesting their own rainwater? And we started doing this, but rainwater harvesting was like the furthest thing from an idea that would be taken seriously as like a pragmatic and realistic part of Mexico City's water management strategy. I mean, it was like nowhere near acceptable at that point. But we kept on pushing forward and first we installed a couple dozen, then a couple hundred, a couple thousand rainwater harvesting systems. And we started developing methodologies in order to implement this like better and better. We started doing a lot of research and a lot of communications work. And the project started getting this traction and it started becoming this kind of proof of concept for this. And we started getting approached by the government. And last year, actually, we worked with the Mexico City government and designed and helped launch a rainwater harvesting program, a citywide rainwater harvesting program that's already installed 15,000 rainwater harvesting systems, is on track to install 100,000 in the next couple of years. And so we're actually seeing this happen, and it's really amazing. And I think our work is really only beginning. There's tens of millions of people in Mexico alone whose water situation can be improved with rainwater harvesting. And there's many times as many people throughout the world. And so we're just going to keep on working until as many people who are struggling with water gain this sustainable, autonomous, and I think very poetic way of getting their own water. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you guys in person very soon.
Enrique, thank you so much for sharing the story of this work that is indeed changing lives. And I love the yurt. National Geographic knows that if we want a better future for the world, we need to educate our children about the world. Let's hear from our next explorer, Alicia Pressel, who's doing that on a daily basis in Jacksonville, Florida.
As a young girl, I dreamed of becoming Jane of the Jungle. In my 5th grade science class, my teacher shared an impactful video on the destruction of tropical forests, and for many years, I turned my attention towards an interest in tropical ecology and the environmental sciences. I didn't have a clear path on my journey, but I was determined to see my dream come true. In high school, I continued aspirations in the environmental sciences and participated in my first field study abroad program in Costa Rica. In college coursework, I began making connections between human influences and natural systems, which led me to the study of human ecology. It was during my first internship with the State Department of Environmental Protection that my passion for plants began and my love for ethnobotany was discovered. It was also in this experience that I first learned the important application of geographic information systems and how mapping rare plant communities leads to better conservation practices for threatened ecosystems. I was quickly becoming interested in many different areas of the environmental sciences, but which one to choose as a career? During an internship studying sea turtle biology along the coastline of North Carolina, I was in a role educating the local community about the importance of conserving coastal ecosystems, and I was hooked. This twist in environmental education opened my eyes in a way I could blend all of my passions: ecology, ethnobotany, conservation, and GIS mapping technologies, while integrating these science applications with human ecology and our human journey on this planet Earth. So I turned my professional practice to environmental education, and before the Earth revolved a few more times around the sun, I found myself in a position to create a 4-year career academy program in the environmental sciences, providing avenues for high school students to develop their passions and pursuits in ways I never had easy access to in school. Many educational moments along my personal learning journey came from self-determination and, frankly, from stubbornness to continue my childhood dream. Opportunities which were not provided to me in school, I sought on my own. Until recently, the fields of environmental science have not had popular draw because our society does not do a great job providing intrinsic value on our natural systems. But that's a discussion for another time. I never imagined myself as an environmental educator. And let's be honest, during this shift in education due to COVID, teaching is hard work. Yet through determination and perseverance, I find myself in the unique position to provide experiences to students that help them foster a curiosity for natural systems in our local community and allow them to find their human connection in those ecosystems. In our environmental sciences program, students explore ecological principles such as water conservation, wetland mitigation, forestry practices, biodiversity studies, human development, and land management practices, all while developing skills using GIS technologies and working with local business partners and geo-mentors in their respected fields. Students have early access to internships with those partners. They experience project-based field studies and practice citizen science. Students graduate with employable skills and a diverse range of experiences to carry with them forward on their learning journeys. I have even had delightful opportunities to travel with my students abroad to bring them to the wild places and ecosystems that I explored when I was their age in Costa Rica. I would have loved to have had these opportunities when I was in high school. I feel blessed to create such experiences for the next generation. For over a decade, students have come through this unique program and are now doing amazing things as global citizens. One alum is an environmental engineer working on freshwater resource access in the Dominican Republic. Another is working in sustainable development initiatives overseas with the European Union. Some have even started professions in the education field and have eager students of their own. And all of these transformational experiences have been through a public school program with open access for all. While my childhood dream of becoming Jane of the Jungle never materialized, I discovered a learning journey much more rewarding than I ever could have imagined possible. I teach the next generation of leaders and change makers. What excites me most during this transitional time in education is possibilities for more experience-based educational moments to be available for more students across our country.
Thank you, Ali. We know that it's particularly challenging to teach during these times, and we commend you for your work in empowering the next generation of explorers. Our next explorer is a protector of wildlife, like Paula. Let's hear about the work that Adams Kasinga is doing in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Hi everyone, my name is Adams Kasinga. I am 38 years old. I am from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I am a wildlife criminal investigator. I am a wildlife activist, but also I'm an honorary park ranger of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I am working under a local nonprofit called Conserve Congo, which I co-founded in 2013. Conserve Congo's mission is to preserve the biodiversity of the Congo Basin, and we do that by fighting the scourge of poaching as well as wildlife trafficking. For the last 8 years, we have investigated over 500 cases of wildlife crimes. We have brought over 150 to court level, and so far we have gotten about 10 convictions. Before the existence of Conserve Congo, there had never been any wildlife crimes conviction in the country. Personally, I was born in the eastern part of the country in a small town called Bukavu, bordering Rwanda and Uganda. I used to hear about national parks such as Virunga and the Kauzi-Biega, and even though we are only 40 kilometers away from these national parks, I had never been there. My parents were actually born closer by, but none of them has ever seen a gorilla in its natural habitat. I attended a local Catholic school, and in this school, since there was no corporal punishment, they had their ways of punishing us. So they were very strict on languages. So if you express yourself in any other language, which wasn't English or French, and you're a girl, they'll shave off your head. But if you're a guy, they'll make you wear a chimpanzee skull. And during break time, you'll be walking and other kids will be behind you, chanting, humiliating you and degrading you. But when I worried for the first time, I established a connection between the dead animal and myself. It so inspired me to the point that sometimes I spend the whole night awake and I was trying to put flesh and bones onto this skull. I tried to give it a shape because I had never seen a wildlife in my life except in the market where they were already prepared for dinner. So it inspired me that I started collecting little insects and other invertebrates, and I'll paste them on a board in my room, and I was having this fantasy of becoming a zoologist. But my father was totally against it because he said he couldn't pay school fees for a monkey or an insect chaser. Instead, he wanted me to become an Air Force pilot. I grew up in a very fierce dictatorship under Mobutu Sese Seko, and being part of the army was a privilege. It was one of the best jobs that one could have. So I had to abide with the rules of the father, and there was a program which was called the Pioneer, which is like the equivalent of the cadets in the US. And they started recruiting kids from high school so that they can prepare them after high school to go to the military academy. And what was one of the people selected for this. And fortunately, 2 years before I could finish high school, the war broke out. And you know the war with all its consequences. We became the target of armed groups who wanted to recruit us for various tasks in their militia. And my parents thought it would be best for me to skip the country. And this way I skipped the country and I went to South Africa where things did not work well the way I expected. And very soon I found myself on the street as a teenager. So yes, I was a child refugee. And I spent a year or two of my life on the streets of Johannesburg, hustling for survival. Life on the streets was not easy, and I don't think it has ever been easy for anybody. So the only thing I could do at this stage was writing. And I used to write in French, but now I was learning a new language while I was teaching myself, but I was also writing to various newspapers. I wasn't writing for anything else, but just to make the public aware of the plight of refugees in the country. I was surprised that I was called to the newspaper by the editor. And eventually, after making a very short presentation, the editor hired me. And at 17, this is how I kickstarted my career as a reporter. I started scooping awards. I was involved in investigative journalism. And eventually, while I was investigating a story in 2006, an unfortunate incident happened whereby I got shot 5 times and got hit twice. I spent about a week in the ICU, and this was a very scary moment where family and friends had to gather and tell me that, look, we don't think this is very safe for you, and you should look at prospects of changing careers. It was heartbreaking because this is the only thing that I knew how to do, and this is what was putting food on my table. But I had to change. I went to college. I didn't know what to do. My maths were not so good. I wanted to do biology or zoology, just like I was dreaming in my childhood. But my grades were not so great. So I had to pick something randomly, and I chose environmental management. So after completing the course, I came back. I had a brother who was already established in the mining sector and immediately got hired. I was lucky. I was sent to Ghana immediately. This gave me a status of an expatriate consultant in environmental management, and it really raised my financial status. So I spent the next 5 years of my life traveling the world, working for very powerful companies, moving from one country to the other, until in 2010, for the first time on a project in the DRC, I was selected to be sent there since I was born there. And this was the first time as an adult coming back home. And I remember flying from Uganda, going to site, and for the first time, I flew over the forest, that green thick canopy. It kind of got me inspired. By the time I reached site, since it wasn't too far from the Garamba National Park, I continued seeing some exactions of people killing wildlife, polluting rivers, and all of that. So these 2 years of my life, which I spent there, my mind was there, but my heart was in the forest. And I think this was the turning point in my life where I said, I think I need to go back to the first love of my life, which is nature conservation. So I resigned, everybody laughed, everybody warned me, and I went to Kinshasa. I had never been there before, and I got involved. I tried to get involved with community work. It didn't work out until I was advised to start up a nonprofit. And now you must understand that having a nonprofit registered here in the DRC is more expensive than having a business registered. But against all odds, we registered the organization. We struggled having the right people because we didn't have money to pay. But eventually in 2016, we became very much more stable. To date, we've got about 52 volunteers across the country. We are still keeping pushing the work, helping government and humanity at large in preserving our natural heritage. And we think that will only stop the day wildlife crimes become a thing of the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Adams. This work is so important in your country, my country, Kenya, and throughout Africa. Thanks for sharing your work with us. At National Geographic, explorers come from all disciplines. And our next one, Sonika Manandar, is a software engineer who uses her background to expand the use of green energy in Nepal.
When I was 5 years old, I remember riding on a minibus with my dad. While he drove the passenger from one place to another, I remember sitting on the front seat and looking at how he's driving and pressing those brakes. And sometimes he would also let me collect the fare money. And this was 25 years ago, when my father started our transportation business by buying a minibus with a loan supported by the government. The trust of the government in our family's entrepreneurial ability changed our trajectory. And because of that, a daughter of a former micro-entrepreneur today is a computer engineer and speaking here in front of you all. Zozolapa, I'm Sonika Manandar. And as I've experienced in my family, the growth of SMEs is essential to growing a prosperous economy. Alloy, our social enterprise, was born because I wanted to make sure many other informal sector micro-entrepreneurs like my dad get the same financial opportunities to grow their business as we did. Back in 1995, Kathmandu became a green city pioneer with over 700 Safa tempos, the electric minibuses servicing the city for 25 years, and all driven by women micro-entrepreneurs. These electric minibuses, as compared to diesel city bus, reduce carbon emissions equivalent by 17,000 to 22,000 kilograms a day, and have contributed greatly to reducing air pollution in Kathmandu. But the same city today suffers from air pollution that's 5 times higher than the safe level. Air pollution kills more than 37,000 people in Nepal every year. The electric transportation sector is well suited because of Nepal's immense hydropower potential of 43,000 megawatts. But on the other hand, Nepal spent $1.8 billion to import fuel in the year 2018-19. This kind of amount could fund a hydropower project with a capacity of 456 megawatts, which is 3 times larger than what's existing currently in Nepal. I was 5 years old when this electric vehicle industry started. I've grown 6 times older than that. But it is sad to see that this amazing electric vehicle industry has never grown from 700. Actually, it is even less now. And we see a lot of these electric minibuses rusting in garages. In the curious journey to know why this happened, one day I met a woman as I was taking a photo of an old minibus. Her name is Sachita, and she is one of the remaining electric minibus drivers. She was telling me that they use lead-acid battery that costs around $4,500, but only lasts 1 year. And a lithium-ion battery costs double that, but lasts 7 years. Because she's an informal sector micro-entrepreneur with no collateral or credit history to her name, she can't find loans with reasonable interest rates to upgrade her vehicle battery. Now multiply this by 700. Unfortunately, because of this lack of affordable capital, the number of electric minibuses has been decreasing since mid-2000s. One of the main problems is lack of trust concerning misuse of funds between those looking to invest and those looking for affordable financing. There is an estimated $8 trillion credit gap for 400 million underserved MSMEs in the world. Our social enterprise Alloy is bridging the gap by building trust using technology for automatic fund tracking. And we particularly focus on solving a credit gap for women micro-entrepreneurs. We help impact sector directly invest in the micro-entrepreneurs using our digital token platform. Similar to a micro-lending platform, but with real-time fund tracking and detailed impact analysis. We have built a digital token platform that can trace money and impact at real time, at low cost, and at any financing scale. And we help channel impact financing from development partners, foundations, private sectors, or individuals like any one of us towards the micro-entrepreneur through the local microfinance institution. We have enabled many women micro-entrepreneurs access affordable financing to grow their business and also continue to being climate heroes. Next year, we'll reach our 1,000th women micro-entrepreneur. And all of this was possible because of our amazing team led by Tiffany Tong and myself. We bring years of experience working at World Bank and Microsoft Innovation Center in Africa and Asia. And we believe that the key to solving global challenges such as 2 of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs of UN, SDG number 8, decent work and economic growth, and SDG number 13, climate action. And it is only possible by mobilizing the green grassroots micro-entrepreneurs. Alloy's vision is to make sure each dollar of investment has traceable impact, so that 400 million micro-entrepreneurs like Sachita globally could grow their business, support their families, and at the same time make regions more resilient to climate change. And as my father once said, real change happens from the ground up. And he showed me the power of collective grassroots action. Well, after all this talk about minibuses and my father's business, I still don't know how to drive. But what I do know is how to collect money. And now, this time, it is for the Micro Impact Fund, for the green grassroots micro-entrepreneurs working for impact and climate action. And you will soon be able to join us in our Micro Impact Fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonika. Your work is so important for Nepal and the rest of the world as well. Our next explorer is Tamara Merino. a documentary photographer from Chile who tells powerful stories around cultural, gender, and migration issues.
My name is Tamara Merino, and I'm a documentary photographer and visual storyteller based in Chile, focusing on sociocultural issues, identity, and subterranean communities. My long-term project Underland documents communities living underground or in cave houses in different countries around the world. And each one of the communities I have documented for this story, from Australia and Spain to the United States, have their own sociocultural, environmental, economic, or religious reasons for living underground. But before I show you some pictures, I would like to tell you a short personal story, so you get an idea of how I ended up documenting these amazing subterranean communities. Back in 2015, I was living and traveling in a camper van around Australia. This was my home for a year. And while I was crossing the Simpson Desert, I got a flat tire and ended up in a unique and bizarre town called Coober Pedy. And I love these kind of places. So I decided to start wandering around the town, and I found a hill and a door and a cross on top of it. I entered, of course, and I walked down on a red carpet and ended up inside an Orthodox underground church with 8 or 9 candles burning, Jesus carved in the walls, and everything was clean and neat. There was nobody inside, but I knew immediately I wanted to meet these underground communities and discover these underground stories, so I stayed. Coober Pedy is a town located in the southern Australian outback that inhabits a subterranean culture in which the majority of the population live in underground houses called dugouts. This is an unconventional town where most of the social and personal life takes place under the vast and lonely land itself. And among a population of 1,700 inhabitants, Coober Pedy residents are made up of 45 different nationalities of immigrants and veterans of the World War. Also, since 1915, Coober Pedy has been mined for its opal, a valuable gemstone worth millions of dollars. And when I realized this wasn't something new and unusual, because the caves have been the residence most used by men since prehistoric times, I decided to travel to the other side of the world, to Andalusia, Spain, where people have been living in caves for more than 500 years. Cave building in southern Spain started when the Arabs brought the tradition with them from the troglodyte communities of northern Africa, and nowadays it is the biggest cave settlement in Europe. The traditional Spanish dance flamenco was formed precisely in these caves more than 500 years ago, and until these days, these gypsy families, together with the African immigrants, retain their traditional cave lifestyle with more strength than ever. And recently, I documented in the Utah region a Mormon polygamous community living in caves inside a rock since 1975. This community embraces plural marriage and follows the Mormon religious principles. This rock is like the Ark of Noah for them and will protect the entire community from the eventual apocalypse and will never be destroyed by any natural disasters. This community is also 100% sustainable with power, having a private solar system, and a natural water well that supplies all the families within the community. In these frenetic modern times, underground villages show that other alternatives are possible. Living underground is an eco-friendly solution as it is completely self-sustaining and has a carbon footprint of practically zero. I hope these subterranean stories help question established ideas, show new perspectives, create awareness, and inspire others to make positive changes for our planet. Though we all inhabit the globe in different ways, we all have a strong relationship with the environment that surrounds us. Humans have inhabited caves since prehistoric times, and today there are more than 60 million people living underground throughout the world. So thanks to National Geographic Society, I will be documenting more of these subterranean communities, aiming to illustrate the human condition and the important relationship between human beings and the environment. Always keep curious, keep open-minded, and take care of our planet. Thank you very much.
Tamara, thanks so much for this story that was indeed a story of surprise and fascination. Next, we'll hear from Anthony Abayomi, a Nigerian visual artist whose captivating work uses the camera, art, and technology to create immersive experimental media.
Stories have played a crucial role in the evolution of humans and society. Majority of us rely on images for most of our communication, and for people like me who think primarily in pictures, every image and everything I see becomes an archived item for future thoughts and also helps me clarify some of my past thoughts by giving meaning to the things that I find harder to understand. I started to pay more attention to how images made me feel as a child. Growing up in a religious Catholic family, images were used extensively in the design of the churches I attended and also in most of the worship material. And this is the earliest memory I have of visual storytelling. As interesting as these paintings and sculptures were, they became questionable when I visited another parish where the characters of the Bible and religious stories were illustrated as Africans and the events in these stories taking place in an African community. I remember feeling for the first time like this piece of information was intended for me, even though I had seen it several times before. And I felt required to participate and to do something differently. Unlike the other times when I felt like these were conversations that I only got to hear by chance. The impact of a story and how it is portrayed is very visible in regards to what religion and religious organizations have done with it for thousands of years. Storytelling has been an effective tool for changing people's minds and sometimes for keeping people doing the same things. One of my favorite projects so far is titled Golden Points. This project is ongoing and focuses on the story of sportswomen in Lagos, and through it I explore sports as a spectacle of gender equality. Through this work I attempt to retell the stories of some of our favorite sports without the filter of male dominance in a community where sports is perceived primarily by most as activity for men. Using the power of art and technology, I tell stories because I feel the need to educate myself and others about the world we live in. I aim to offer alternative perspectives to diverse audiences in my portrayal of people, society, and culture with the aim of fostering tolerance, mitigating stereotypes, challenging traditional opinions, and addressing issues of social justice. By shining a light on our shared human experiences, stories have the power to connect us to others even when we are reluctant. In my work, I have told stories that were deeply personal, which turned out to become shared experiences with people both far and near, and some of whom I had never even met before. The most fulfilling part of my work for me would be the fact that it changes me too. It puts me in a unique position to see life from many perspectives and be more accepting of the things that I'm yet to learn about. And this I am never going to take for granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. We all look forward to seeing your future projects as you continue to help increase understanding through your photographic work. Our next explorer is Diva Ayman, a marine biologist from Trinidad and Tobago who's committed to revealing the bounty of life in the deep sea, increasing our overall knowledge of the ocean, and influencing policy with the best possible science.
Hello, my name is Diva Ayman, and I'm a deep sea biologist working at the nexus of science, policy, and communication. Although I'm currently in London due to COVID-related travel restrictions, I'd like to start this story in my home, the islands of Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. I grew up loving the ocean. Hours were spent playing on the beach, snorkeling, and sailing. And I would often look out to sea and wish I could pull away that dark, murky water to reveal what was living down in those depths. The Caribbean was where my love for the ocean blossomed, but it wasn't until years later, while at university, that I realized there was so much more about the ocean to love than what meets the eye in the shallows. Deep ocean is not only the Caribbean's largest ecosystem, but it also provides over 95% of all the habitable space on Earth. And with most of it still unexplored, there is no place on the planet that we know less about. It is a vast reservoir of biodiversity, most of which is still undiscovered. And it is absolutely essential to keeping our planet healthy and keeping us alive by providing key ecosystem services and resources. But already unprecedented changes are happening, with our exploitation of the deep ocean only increasing. If we continue to proceed blindly and irresponsibly, we will likely lose parts of our planet before we truly know them. My research tries to prevent this. It focuses on increasing our understanding of the deep ocean and then using this knowledge to mitigate our impacts and manage our deep oceans more effectively. Iconic places like the Okavango Delta, the Himalayas, and the Grand Canyon all likely exist in the deep ocean. We just need to find them. And when we find them, we need to protect them. By engaging with national and international policymakers, I'm working to ensure that key ocean governance processes are informed by the best available science. And finally, it has been an utter privilege to experience the deep ocean in the way I have, and I feel compelled to share that. Not only do I want the kids who look out to sea to know about the anglerfish and the yeti crabs and the glass sponges, but I want them to be stewards that understand and value the absolute majesty of the deep ocean. The deep sea is truly global, so all of humankind, not just an elite few, should know enough to inform the decisions we take. Because ultimately, that's how we'll preserve it for generations to come. I'm so thrilled to be part of the 2020 cohort of National Geographic's Emerging Explorers. This is truly a brilliant opportunity to shine a light on the deep ocean so that we can manage and protect it better. Thank you again, and I'm really looking forward to this journey together.
Diva, thank you for your work in helping all of us learn more about the largely unexplored portion of our planet. Our next explorer is Joy Bolamwini, an award-winning researcher and entrepreneur who describes herself as a poet of code. She's on a mission to show compassion through computation.
I am Joy Bolamwini, a poet of code telling stories that make daughters of diasporas dream and sons of privilege pause. I'm also the founder of the Algorithmic Justice League, an organization that uses art and research to illuminate and address algorithmic bias and harms. We're on a mission to fight something I call the coded gaze, like the male gaze or the white gaze or the post-colonial gaze. The coded gaze is a reflection of those with the privilege and power to shape the technologies that shape our societies. And as you can see in this demonstration video, I encountered the coded gaze when working on a project that used face detection. To have my face detected, I literally had to put a white mask on my dark skin. And this experience led me to ask the question, are machines really neutral? Well, the answer, as you'll see, is not so much. And so I posed this question around machine neutrality to the women of Wakanda. And like the women of Wakanda, I had something in common with them besides being highly melanated. As you can see in the chart, like me, some of their faces were not detected or they were labeled male. Or if you can see this red column, that's for age classification. It's algorithmically verified. Black don't crack. You see in the red column, all that red is indicating getting the age wrong for these women. Then I started to wonder and ask about women beyond the fictional space, beyond the realm of Wakanda. And this led to my poem and also visual algorithmic audit called AI Ain't I a Woman, where I pose Sojourner Truth's 19th century question to 21st century algorithms. Here are a few lines from that poem with examples. Michelle Obama, unabashed and unafraid to wear her crown of history, yet her crown seems a mystery to systems unsure of her hair. A wig, a bouffant, a toupee, maybe not. Are there no words for our braids and our locks? Does sunny skin and relaxed hair make Oprah the first lady? Even for her face well known, some algorithms fault her, echoing sentiments that strong women are men. We laugh, celebrating the successes of our sisters with serena smiles. No label is worthy of our beauty. And so, as I began testing these images of iconic women, I started to see these labels. And these labels matter because they're being used in many other areas of AI, in what I call the essential FML, freedom, money, love. And so you have AI systems that are deciding who gets hired, who gets fired, who gets medical treatment if deemed worthy of that treatment in the first place, and even who gets arrested. Recently, Robert Williams was arrested in front of his 2 young daughters and detained in jail for 30 hours based on a false face recognition match. And so these labels have real world consequences that cannot be ignored. So when you have algorithms acting as the gatekeepers, we have to make sure that there is equitable access to opportunities and that you're not algorithmically excoded. The real world consequences of the ways in which machines see us, label us, and classify us is why I started the Algorithmic Justice League. And I'm so proud that the journey of creating the organization is captured in the film Coded Bias, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival this year. And on November 11th, we'll have a virtual theatrical release. I truly hope you have a chance to join it. And I hope you'll join the Algorithmic Justice League in creating a world with more equitable and accountable AI, where technology serves all of us, not just the privileged few. If you have a face, you have a place in the conversation. We have a voice and a choice in the future of society, and we choose to live in a society where data is not destiny.
Joy, thank you for giving us such an artful look at your work and making us take a moment to think. I'd like to take this moment to thank all of our 2020 emerging explorers for sharing these stories that allowed us to see the world in new, powerful ways. That, in essence, is what National Geographic Explorers do, and it's a privilege to welcome you all to the National Geographic family. Paula, as a longstanding member of National Geographic family yourself, what advice would you give to this talented new class of emerging explorers?
First, I just want to congratulate everyone for their amazing work. And I want to welcome them to this family because we are a phenomenal network of supportive individuals. So take advantage of us. Be bold. Call on your friends and your collaborators. And be fearless. Our work is so important, and you have such an enormous opportunity to make a difference.
Thank you, Paula. That's a great bit of advice. It really is the power of the community of National Geographic Explorers that really makes that difference. So what a perfect way to wrap up. Thank you to Paula for joining as my co-host. Thank you to our emerging explorers for sharing their amazing work. And thank you, our audience members and our donors, for joining us for this special presentation of the 2020 National Geographic Emerging Explorers. And thank you for your ongoing support. Goodbye.